Ethan had always believed life was a straight road, predetermined and rigid. Every day was a repetition: wake up, rush to work, sit at his desk for hours, return home, mindlessly scroll through his phone, and fall asleep only to repeat it all the next day. His life felt colorless, devoid of the passion he once carried in his youth. He often found himself reminiscing about his childhood dreams, becoming an artist, traveling the world and experiencing life with wonder. But those dreams had faded into the background, replaced by responsibilities, fear, and a belief that change was beyond his reach. One evening, as he walked home through the bustling streets, something unusual happened. A small bookstore caught his eye. He had passed by it many times, but had never entered. That night, however, a peculiar pull urged him inside. Inside, the bookstore was quiet, filled with the scent of aged paper and ink. His eyes wandered until they landed on a single book placed separately on a wooden table. The Mind's Infinite Possibilities. The cover depicted a shadowed figure, walking through a glowing doorway into a vibrant world. Something stirred within him, a whisper from a forgotten part of himself. He picked it up and flipped through the pages. The book spoke of transformation, of how our thoughts create our reality, and how patterns of fear and self-doubt trap people in the same cycles. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Lao Tzu. The words resonated deep within him. Could it be that his stagnant life wasn't a prison, but merely a story he had been telling himself? Could he, with a single step, rewrite that story? He bought the book and walked home with a sense of quiet anticipation. That night, Ethan read late into the hours. The book explained how the mind clings to identity as if it were set in stone. But what if identity was fluid, always shifting like water? He recalled a passage from the I Ching, the Book of Changes. The superior man makes himself strong and untiring. Hexagram 34, great power. Strength did not come from force, but from adaptability, from knowing when to let go of old patterns and embrace change. The ancient text spoke of how energy flows through life like water in a river. If one resists the current, they struggle. But if one learns to move with the flow, they reach new places effortlessly. For the first time, he considered that perhaps his stagnation wasn't caused by external circumstances, but by his own refusal to move with change. Before bed, he did something new. He closed his eyes and imagined a different version of himself, one who was fearless, who painted freely, who explored life without hesitation. It felt strange at first, as if he was pretending, but deep inside, a tiny ember of possibility began to glow. The next morning, as Ethan went through his usual routine, something felt different. The city seemed more alive, the air crisper, the sounds clearer. He walked past a street artist painting a mural, and instead of hurrying by, he stopped and watched. The artist noticed him staring. "Want to try?" she asked, holding out a brush. For a moment, his old self, the one ruled by hesitation, almost declined. But then he remembered Lao Tzu's wisdom. By letting go, it all gets done. He accepted the brush. The feeling of paint against the wall awakened something in him. It was as if a door had opened inside his mind, and through it poured a flood of memories, of sketching as a child, of blending colors without worry, of feeling alive through creation. That evening, instead of scrolling through his phone, he picked up an old canvas from his closet. The first stroke of paint felt like breaking through an invisible chain. As weeks passed, Ethan dedicated more time to painting. Yet every step forward was met with inner resistance. What if you fail? What if people laugh at you? You're too old to start over. Doubt whispered in his ear, pulling him back to old habits. But he remembered another passage from the I Ching. Perseverance furthers. The superior man does not allow himself to be thrown off course. Hexagram 32, duration. Real change required persistence. Transformation was not an instant event, but a gradual unfolding. Instead of fighting his fears, he observed them, like clouds passing through the sky. He realized they were not real barriers, only illusions created by the past. So he kept going. One day, he saw an advertisement for an artist residency in another city. It was an opportunity to paint full-time, to immerse himself in creativity. His heart raced at the thought. The old Ethan would have hesitated. He would have found excuses, his job, his comfort, the fear of failure. But now he saw clearly, comfort was the enemy of growth. So he applied. A month later, he received the acceptance email. He had been chosen. Standing at the train station, a suitcase in one hand and a sketchbook in the other, he felt something he had not felt in years: freedom. As the train pulled away, he watched the city he had known disappear behind him. He was stepping into the unknown, but for the first time he was not afraid, because now he understood. Life was not a fixed road. It was a river, and he had finally learned to flow with it. Years later, Ethan's paintings hung in galleries across the country. He traveled, taught others how to break free from their own cycles, and lived each day with a sense of wonder. When asked how he changed his life, he would smile and say, "I stopped being who I thought I was, and became who I was meant to be."